Well, it looks like that all roads are pointing toward Dan Quinn at this point. Let's talk about it. And welcome back, folks, to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs YouTube channel. My name is Greg. I'm homesick, so just bear with me. I'm going to try to get through this video. Kind of hard doing this with the flu, but I'm going to try to soldier on. Uh, Make sure you've subscribed to this channel, and also make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. So, breaking news. Looks like the Seattle Seahawks are going to hire Mike MacDonald to be their next head coach. So, pretty much, I would think all roads lead to Dan Quinn at this point for Washington Commanders. Now, the coaching candidates that are left: Dan Quinn, Aaron Glenn, and Anthony Weaver. Um, Dan Quinn at this point has the most experience. Um, and I think that he would probably be able to put together a better staff, or maybe the best staff of the three. I don't know. I just feel like he's got more ties um, in the league than maybe what the other two would. But certainly, I think that if the Commanders decide to hire Aaron Glenn, I think that that might be a good move as well. Um, it really comes down to any of these three guys, though, because they're defensive minded guys, and it would have been the same with Mike MacDonald, but they're really going to have to get the offensive coordinator position. They're going to have to really hit on that. Um, that was one reason why I think a lot of us were wanting an offensive minded head coach, considering the fact that it's very likely that the Commanders draft a quarterback at number 2. And if they do, they really need to know that they have somebody in place who's going to be able to develop that quarterback. Um, would Eric Bieniemy stay on as the offensive coordinator? I'm not sure if the Commanders want him to stay on as the coordinator. He really didn't improve anything. I know some people on Twitter were like, the offense was a lot better. Well, rankings tell you differently. And if you go back and look at points scored, it tells you differently as well. There's only 3 games, I think, that the Commanders scored over 30 points, and they only won one of those games. So, toward the end there, to the end of the season, they were lucky to score 10 to 17 points per ball game. They're ranked 25th at the end of the season. Scott Turner, at the end of his tenure, the offense was ranked 24th. So, really, if anything, the offense went down a bit under Eric Bieniemy. So, having said that, I think you're going to have to go out and look for another offensive coordinator. Um, honestly, right now, I think out of the 3, I would probably pick Dan Quinn. He has the most experience. He's been to a Super Bowl. I know a lot of people are saying he's Ron Rivera 2.0, and you can't compare those two. I mean, come on. I think Dan Quinn would be a fine hire, honestly. Um, and I think that once people realize that if he brings to Washington a good staff, then and he brings together good staff, and the Commanders are able to draft well this year, to hit on most of their draft picks, especially their top ones. Pick up a couple of really good free agents, then things may be okay in Washington. Um, so Yeah, it's not the exciting news that we all. I mean, at the beginning of this week, all of us were like, Ben Johnson is coming to Washington. We're going to have the young offensive mind come to Washington, and it's going to be somebody that we can have for the next 20 years, you know, 20, 25 years. And things unraveled. Um, Johnson stayed in Detroit, Slowick stayed in Houston, Mike McDaniel's getting hired in Seattle, and suddenly the Commanders are looking at the last three. Now, they still could look at Mike Vrabel, and I know that a lot of people are going to laugh at this, but I mean, technically, you could still look at Bill Belichick, although that would not be my choice. Um, but Vrabel, I'm really surprised that teams have not hired him. I would have hired him in a heartbeat. And who knows, maybe the Commanders, maybe there's still some outside shot that they do interview him and hire him. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, honestly, at this point, you're looking at uh, Dan Quinn being a lock for the Washington Commanders head coaching job. And we're just going to have to get used to that. Um, it's not exciting to us. A lot of Commanders fans feel like the air's been, you know, let out of the balloon. I know a lot of other teams' fans are going to be laughing at this, going, good luck with that. Your team is still going to be a poverty franchise. I've heard about this, but um, honestly, I think Dan Quinn would be a fine coach. He was not my first choice. It wasn't a lot of people's first choice, but so be it. If that's who we're going with, and maybe we'll wind up going with Aaron Glenn. Um, I think Anthony Weaver might be a little bit more of an outside shot. Um, so I say by the end of today, we'll probably know for sure. But with Mike McDaniel getting hired by Seattle, folks, it's going to be Dan Quinn. It is just going to be Dan Quinn. Um, so anyway, hopefully I will feel better soon. But I'm going to try to keep putting these videos out as much as possible, as long as I have a voice and as long as I'm not running a fever, which I probably am a little bit right now. So anyway, you guys take care. I will see you in the next one.